The worst, best Final Fantasy game. Now, that is not a sentence I think I would ever have said in my entire life. And those of you guys who are familiar with the channel, you guys know for the past 2 years, I've been kind of making my way through the Final Fantasy games. And honestly, I did not expect myself to become as big of a Final Fantasy fan that I ended up becoming. I'm caught up in Final Fantasy 14. I played most of the mainline games. I own every mainline game except for, Final Fantasy 11. That's the one thing I haven't committed to. But other than that, I own all of them, all of the mainline at least. And I'm trying to work my way through a lot of the spin-offs and stuff too. But I think what makes Final Fantasy so cool is that despite being the same series, they're all widely different from one another. Like, you can tell they have a similar type of, I guess you could, I want to say writing style, but I guess I could just say they have a similar spirit from one another. It's kind of like, in a way, it's a family, and this is the lineage of this family over all of these years. So Final Fantasy 15 may be nothing, like Final Fantasy 1, but at the end of the day, you can kind of tell this is the same series somewhere deep in there. It's just the series decades later. And I really love that about Final Fantasy. I've really fallen in love with the series to where it's one of my favorites now. But that's not what we're talking about. I guess it kind of, works into it. But the worst, best Final Fantasy game. I really want to say, one, thank you to Square Enix for providing me the pixel remasters of these games, because I really wanted to get more into the series, as I said before. And though I own Final Fantasy 1 and 2 already through the Final Fantasy Origins collection on the PS1, I really wanted to play the pixel remasters just because, one, it's more convenient. I don't gotta bust out the PS1 every time I want to play this, and two, it's more than likely gonna have quality of life features and stuff. Now, granted, I don't know all of the quality of life updates and stuff like that, primarily because I didn't play the originals, and because of that, I also have to say I don't know a lot of the newer content that was added into other versions of the game. I saw a lot of controversy and stuff a little bit ago about that kind of thing. Some people were mad that, oh, this isn't here, that's not here from this version. I kind of can't get upset about that because I never experienced that. So I have no honest idea what was removed, what wasn't included, anything like that. So you're not going to get that from me in this video. My main thing is I can't really tell, about those things, so I can't properly judge that. But as somebody who's playing that for the first time, there were a lot of problems in my first experience of this game. Now, again, I want to really say that the story was not the problem. I thought the story was very, very well done, especially for an NES game. It was basically a combination of multiple Star Wars movies. The Empire, taking down the Empire as the rebels and stuff like that, coming in as a nobody and then really becoming the leading force behind this Rebel Alliance and stuff like that. I'm not saying it's beat for beat, but note for note, in a way, it kind of is. I'm not gonna lie. It's like there's literally even a similar scene. I don't know if I have it on recording because I wasn't recording a bunch of footage for this game because I honestly didn't think I would be making this video. I have some, but there was one scene literally when you have to raid the enemy stronghold, their big base or whatever, and you have to go into this core and throw a bomb in there to blow it up, and you have to escape before the whole place blows up. That's just like episode 4, taking down the Emperor, just like episode 6. It's basically Final Fantasy Star Wars, and I really did enjoy that as somebody who is a big fan of Star Wars. However, my biggest gripe with this game is the whole thing about the gameplay. Now, oh my gosh. Okay. Talk about 3 steps forward and maybe 4 steps back. Okay, so Final Fantasy 1 is as traditional as it gets. It basically, think of a turn-based game, and that's basically what it is. Bare bones and not anything more than that. But Final Fantasy 2 tries to go a bit, it goes a bit further. It actually takes away the leveling system completely. And in a way, an RPG without a leveling system, does that make it an RPG anymore? But, oh my gosh. So, in a way, I was actually really looking forward to this because I thought this was going to be a really cool idea. I really wanted to see how they did it. However, it didn't take long for me to realize where starting to see the cracks in this philosophy. So how this works is you get skills and magic and all that kinds of stuff in this game. Basically, everybody in this game is a complete blank slate, except for like one character. But your main trio of characters, they're a complete blank slate. They can be literally or specialize in anything you want them to be. Just you have to train them in that specific art. So what really started making the cracks appear for me was for me to realize that you don't get experience for the skills you don't use in battle. I'm sure you can tell where I'm going with this. And because you don't get any XP for those things you don't use, meaning there's going to be a ton of abilities that don't level up, all throughout this game. They don't get stronger. So if I want to make my cure better than it was before, I have to be using cure frequently in battle. That way I can get XP. However, unfortunately, because of this, that means if I want to make sure my cure gets XP, I have to continuously be healing, even if my party doesn't need it. I don't know why they thought this was a good idea, but I have to basically waste a turn for something I don't need. And this is continuous for basically everything. So what if in one scenario, so you've been having to use this one particular magic command a bunch. You have your black mage, whoever you decided to be, and they basically have just been destroying everything in this dungeon with their fire spell and everything, making it just really lay waste to these foes. But then we get into the next area and now everything is weak to electricity. But the thing about that is your electricity is kind of weak because you never used it. Then you never had a reason to. And the thing is, this just opens up complete and unnecessary grinding for no apparent reason. Now, I really wish that instead they had a proficiency meter or something like that for basically everything you did. Like, say, I don't need to level up in axes and swords and pole arms and things like that. Like, I have a proficiency with melee weapons and I have a proficiency with magic. And as I use more magic, my proficiency meter gets, higher. That's what I would expect. Doing something like that would allow me to, not to matter what magic spell I use, as long as I'm using magic in battle, my magic will continuously get stronger. Now, that is the perfect way to go about this. There is zero reason why this couldn't be done. I know the excuses are, was, the 80s or whatever, so, this obviously went over their heads. But I feel like I can't give it a pass because they didn't fix this for a Pixel remaster. Now, some people might say it's better that they didn't because it's, stays true to the original. I don't care, because at the end of the day, people have to pay for this. They have to pay for this game. And if you make them pay for something that is purposely archaic, especially when it is possible to rework these games into doing something like this, especially when people on their own, not even getting paid for this, can mod these games and have modded these games to be able to fix these issues, there's no reason why the company who makes the game couldn't do this as well. Now, again, because if I'm using axes, that level up my proficiency with axes. I do like that there was an optimized tab button I could press for my equipment and stuff like that. But a lot of times it ended up with stuff I didn't like. Like, I didn't like a lot of my characters dual wielding staffs and stuff like that. And because I never really used shields, whenever I would do optimize, it would never give them shields. And I know it would try to optimize dependent on the stats, but I don't see why this character is specifically better wielding two staffs than they are with, just a sword and a shield, even if they end up being a magic user. I didn't notice any difference using staffs for my mage than using a sword and shield or dual sword, because they're still able to use magic all the same. So I started trying to shy away from the optimize tab mainly just for that reason. And again, I know it's an old game, maybe I shouldn't be complaining about an old game, but it's a recent release and it's my first time playing it, and this really destroys the pacing for this game. Now, you probably have noticed on Twitter, I still said this game is good. Recently I said that. As of the recording of this video, I technically did that less than 24 hours ago. The reason I said that is because most people that know me, I am able to, I'm able to critique, things gameplay wise, but I genuinely do believe if I enjoy the story enough, it's going to be something I can get through, overall. And I did get through it. I did beat Final Fantasy 2. Like, I think it was like 2 a.m. when I beat that game, like a month ago. Maybe not a month ago, maybe a few weeks ago. But a while back when I did beat it, I tweeted out immediately when I beat it. And I was really mixed at the time, and I've had time to really sit on it. And I feel like my feelings for it have solidified. I can call Final Fantasy 2 a good game, but at the same time, I also can call it the worst in the series I've played. Now, again, I haven't played every single game, but this is obviously the worst, and I can tell just from hearsay, Final Fantasy 3 did go back and expand upon Final Fantasy 1's type of gameplay instead of really just, sticking with Final Fantasy 2's, and I really do like that. I've seen some mutuals talking about Final Fantasy 3 being the best of the NES trilogy, so I'm really excited for that, and that's what I expect to see. I hope, the third game is better than the first and second, so I'm excited to try out that game as well, which Square also provided me, all of these games, and I really am excited about that, especially Final Fantasy 4 as well, even though that was an NES game. I really loved the 3D version of Final Fantasy 4. I played through that last year, so I'm really excited to play that as well. But I can definitely, at the end of this video, I can call Final Fantasy 2 the best worst game in the series. Best in the sense to where, out of all of the ones that I didn't care as much for, it's the one I cared about the most. Well, that's so weird. That's such a weird term to call it. I care about it so much because of the characters and story. I really loved Maria and Firion and Guy. I really did like that. But at the same time, I really didn't like the gameplay for it. I feel like these kids had to go through so much, man, and I felt like I had to go through so much because I had to do so much grinding. It's like this game makes you, it guilt trips you into feeling like you have to cheat. And I genuinely feel that way. Like you have to open up Wiimote or something like that and just do instant kills for all battles and grind that way. Because if I gotta grind for hours gaining XP for these abilities, I might as well turn on one-hit kills for everything. That way I can at least make the process faster, or infinite HP, infinite MP, whatever. I genuinely felt like this game pushed me to that point. And maybe that makes me a wimp. Maybe it does, but hey, at the end of the day, it's something I felt like I had to do, and I haven't really felt like that with any other Final Fantasy game. So again, it's the best and worst of the NES trilogy. At least in my opinion, and not that I finished the trilogy, but I'm gonna end this video here. Have you played Final Fantasy 2? Let me know in the comments below. And what are your thoughts on the game? And even if you haven't played it, what are your thoughts based on what I had just said? Does this seem like something you'd be interested in? Let me know down in the comments below. As of right now, you can catch it on mobile and you can catch it on PC. I do believe they will be coming to console. They said if they do well enough, they'll come to console as well. And if there's basically success for these, so I'm hoping it really does. So hopefully they'll end up coming to consoles so other people will be able to play them as well. But thank you guys so much for watching. My name is KingdomAce, and remember, my warriors of light and darkness, to play some games, have some fun, and enjoy your day today.